You know, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was this: not everyone deserves a front row seat to your growth. Sometimes you've got to stop explaining yourself and let your results speak. Because when you keep explaining, when you keep justifying, you're not protecting your peace, you're giving away your power. And the truth is, the people who genuinely understand your vision don't need explanations. The ones who keep questioning it, they're not meant to understand it yet. There's something powerful about moving in silence, about not posting every plan, not announcing every step, not sharing every little update about what you're working on. Because when you're constantly explaining, you give people room to doubt you, and that doubt, it seeps into your own mind. You start to question yourself. You start to second guess what you already know is right. But the moment you stop seeking validation, the moment you stop explaining why you're doing what you're doing, something shifts. You start to hear your own voice again. See, people respect results. They might question your process. They might misunderstand your silence. But when the outcome hits, when the work finally speaks, all those explanations become unnecessary. You can waste months trying to convince someone of your vision, or you can spend that same time building it. One drains you, the other transforms you. I used to think that being misunderstood meant I needed to talk louder, explain more, defend myself harder, but I realized sometimes silence says everything. Your discipline, your consistency, your growth, they're the only explanations you'll ever need. You can't argue with results. You can't debate transformation. When people see that glow in you, that quiet confidence, that focus, they know. They can feel it, and that speaks louder than any justification ever could. There's a peace that comes with not responding to everything. You don't owe everyone access to your thoughts, your plans, or your next move. Some people just want to know what you're doing so they can measure themselves against it. Some just want to poke holes, plant doubt, or distract you. Protect your process, because your process is sacred. It's not for validation, it's for elevation. You're not here to prove your worth to anyone. You're here to become who you were meant to be, and that doesn't require approval. Growth isn't a group project, it's a solo mission. You'll lose people along the way, sure. You'll confuse some, disappoint others, and maybe even be called selfish. But what they call selfish today, they'll call strength tomorrow. It's easy to want people to understand your heart, to know your intentions, to see your effort, but the truth is, not everyone's supposed to get it, and that's okay. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. Because the real success story doesn't start when people start believing in you. It starts when you stop needing them to. So the next time someone questions your choices or asks you to explain your silence, smile. Let them wonder, let them watch, let them talk. Because when your time comes, when that work pays off, your results will echo louder than any words ever could. Stop explaining yourself. Keep building. Keep growing. Keep becoming the kind of person whose success speaks for itself. Because when that happens, you won't need to shock anyone. Your peace, your purpose, and your results will do it for you. You ever catch yourself scrolling through your phone, looking at someone else's life, and suddenly feeling like you're behind, like you're not doing enough, not achieving fast enough, not living big enough? It's a trap. We all fall into comparison. It sneaks in quietly, and before you even realize it, it starts draining your energy, your confidence, and your peace. You start measuring your worth by someone else's highlight reel, and that's when you lose focus on what truly matters you. The truth is, comparison is one of the most subtle ways we sabotage our own growth. It convinces you that someone else's timeline should be yours, that their success somehow makes yours smaller. But here's the thing: everyone's fighting their own silent battles. The person you're admiring might be struggling behind closed doors, the same way you are. The difference is, you're seeing their filtered moments, not their failures. You're seeing their breakthrough, not their breakdown. And when you live in that constant state of comparison, you forget your own lane. You stop celebrating your progress because you're too busy measuring it against someone else's. But progress isn't a race. It's not supposed to look like anyone else's. You're not behind, you're just distracted, and distraction is the enemy of direction. You can't focus on your own path while your eyes are fixed on someone else's journey. You can't build what's meant for you while you're busy counting someone else's blessings. What's for you is for you, and no one can take that away, but you've got to give it your full attention. You've got to feed it your energy, your patience, your commitment. Every time you compare, you rob yourself of that energy. You take the power that should be fueling your purpose and hand it to insecurity instead. When you start focusing on yourself, really focusing, something powerful happens. You stop competing and you start growing. You stop asking, why not me? And start saying, my time is coming. That shift right there changes everything, because when your energy is no longer scattered, your confidence returns. You start moving with intention instead of anxiety. You stop reacting to other people's pace and start trusting your own rhythm. You don't need to be where they are. You need to be where you're meant to be. Maybe your journey's slower because your foundation is stronger. Maybe it's taking longer because what you're building needs to last. Fast isn't always better. Loud isn't always stronger. Some of the most powerful transformations happen quietly, behind the scenes, when no one's watching. And the moment you let go of comparison, you start feeling lighter. You start noticing progress you couldn't see before, because now your focus is clear. You see your own growth. You celebrate small wins. You find peace in your pace. That's when life stops feeling like a competition and starts feeling like a calling. So the next time you catch yourself comparing, pause. Remind yourself their path is theirs. Mine is mine. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to learn before you level up. Focus on watering your own grass, because when you do, it'll grow so beautifully that you'll stop noticing how green anyone else's is. Don't waste your energy trying to keep up. Use it to catch up with yourself, because the moment you stop comparing and start focusing, that's when your growth becomes unstoppable, and that's when the world starts to notice what you've been quietly building all along. Protect your peace like it's your paycheck, because in a way it is. Your peace determines your focus, your decisions, your energy, your health. When your peace is gone, everything else starts to fall apart. You start reacting instead of responding. You start overthinking instead of trusting. You start carrying things that don't belong to you. That's why protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. There comes a point in your life where you realize not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your attention, or your emotional investment. You can love people and still keep your distance. You can care without constantly being available. You can say no without feeling guilty, because every yes to something that drains you is a no to something that builds you. You can't grow in an environment that constantly pulls you back into chaos. Some people thrive on drama, on noise, on conflict. It fuels them. But that's not your fuel anymore. You've outgrown that. You start protecting your peace the moment you stop entertaining every argument, every opinion, every invitation to prove yourself. Not everything deserves a reaction. Sometimes the best response is silence. Sometimes the most powerful move is walking away without explanation. Peace is power, and the moment you understand that, you stop chasing what disrupts it. You stop letting people guilt you into conversations that drain you. You stop trying to fix people who don't want to change. You stop overextending yourself just to keep the peace with others while losing peace with yourself. Because real peace doesn't require you to shrink, it allows you to breathe. And here's something most people won't tell you: peace looks boring from the outside. It looks like saying no to certain events, avoiding certain circles, leaving messages unanswered, and prioritizing rest over attention. It looks like people thinking you've changed, when really, You've just learned to value your energy. You've learned that not every battle is worth fighting, not every opinion is worth hearing, and not every situation needs your involvement. You have to get comfortable disappointing people in order to stop disappointing yourself. The moment you realize that your peace is worth more than their approval, everything changes. You start standing taller. You stop apologizing for boundaries. You stop explaining why you're distant. Because protecting your peace doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're conscious. You finally understand that your energy is limited and not everyone deserves a piece of it. When you start saying no to drama, people might call you detached. When you stop explaining, they might call you arrogant. When you start walking away, they might call you heartless. But let them talk. They'll never understand what it costs to stay calm in a world that feeds on chaos. Protecting your peace means choosing yourself over and over, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable, your peace is your foundation. It's the space where your clarity lives. It's where your strength rebuilds after being drained, and when you guard it, your life starts to feel lighter. You start to think clearer. You stop being easily shaken. You start to realize that not everything deserves your reaction. Some things just deserve your absence. So stop apologizing for needing space. Stop feeling guilty for outgrowing people who thrive on noise. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you do, you won't have to announce your growth or prove your strength. The calm in your spirit will say it all. Healing in private and growing in silence, that's one of the hardest but most powerful things you'll ever do. Because in a world where everyone shares everything, there's this pressure to always be seen, to always update, to always let people know what's happening in your life. But real healing doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in quiet moments, behind closed doors, when no one's around to clap for you. That's where the real work begins. When you choose to heal privately, it's not about hiding. It's about protecting your process. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. Some people don't want to see you grow. They just want to see if you'll fail. And when you give them access too early, they'll start speaking into your process before it's fully formed. That kind of noise can slow your progress, even make you doubt it. So when you start pulling back, when you start getting quiet, it's not distance, it's discipline. You're choosing to build strength in silence instead of validation in public. There's something sacred about those seasons where you disappear for a while. When you stop explaining, stop posting, stop performing, and you just focus on becoming. That's where growth takes root. You learn to face your emotions without distraction. You learn to process pain without performance. You learn to stand on your own without needing anyone to reassure you that you're doing the right thing. And that's powerful, because when your healing no longer depends on someone else's approval, you start to find peace that lasts. Not everyone is meant to understand your silence. Some people will take it personally. They'll think you've changed, that you're distant, that you're cold. But that silence, that stillness, that's you rebuilding. That's you getting stronger. That's you learning to hear your own voice again, without all the outside noise. And you can't heal if you keep reopening wounds just to explain them to people who never cared to understand them in the first place. Healing is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's not a straight line. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, and then something small will trigger you again. But that's okay. Growth isn't about pretending the pain never existed. It's about not letting it control you anymore. It's about reaching a point where you can think about what hurt you and not feel the same sting. You don't get there overnight. You get there by showing up for yourself day after day in the quiet. And that's why silence is so powerful. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. It's in that quiet space where you start hearing what your heart's been trying to say all along. You start recognizing patterns, letting go of old versions of yourself, and forgiving people not for them, but for you. Silence teaches you that closure doesn't always come from conversations. Sometimes it comes from acceptance. The beauty of growing in silence is that by the time people notice, you're unrecognizable. The things that used to trigger you don't anymore. The people who used to get under your skin can't reach you. The old version of you they once knew, that person doesn't exist, and that's the moment when people start wondering what happened. They start asking what changed, but you don't have to explain it. Your peace, your calm, your confidence, that's your explanation. So take your time, step back when you need to, heal in your own space, in your own pace. You don't need an audience for your recovery, only courage for your rebirth, because the strongest version of you will always be the one that was built in silence. There's this idea people love to talk about: motivation. They wait for it, chase it, and depend on it like it's the fuel that'll get them where they need to go. But here's the truth. Motivation is unreliable. It's emotional. It comes and goes. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears. Discipline is what separates wishing from winning. It's what gets you up when the excitement's gone, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. That's where the real transformation happens, in the quiet, unglamorous moments of showing up anyway. Motivation feels good, right? It's that spark, that rush that makes you say, "I'm going to change everything." But a few days later, life happens. You're tired, you're stressed, things don't go as planned, and suddenly that spark fades. That's where discipline steps in, the part of you that says, "I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway." That's not easy. It's not supposed to be, but that's how you build trust with yourself, because every time you follow through, you're teaching your mind that your word means something. It's easy to post about your goals, to talk about your dreams, to tell people what you're going to do. But the real work doesn't happen in the announcement. It happens in the follow-through. It happens when no one's around to see it. That's the difference between people who make progress and people who stay stuck. One group waits to feel ready, and the other just starts. Discipline doesn't need to feel ready. It just needs to be consistent, and consistency is where the power is, because small steps, repeated daily, build unshakable momentum. You might not see results right away. You might not even feel like anything's changing, but one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come, and it'll hit you that it wasn't luck, it wasn't timing, it was discipline. The days you didn't feel like doing it, but did anyway, those are the days that built your strength. The truth is, the world doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the most consistent. You can have all the potential in the world, but if you're waiting for motivation to show up first, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Discipline doesn't wait for the mood, it doesn't ask for permission, it just does the work, and that's what people notice. That's what shocks them, not that you got lucky, but that you stayed committed. You won't always be inspired, and that's okay. Some days you'll just go through the motions. Some days it'll feel repetitive, boring even. But that's what building something real feels like. You don't always need fireworks, sometimes you just need focus. Because every quiet, consistent day compounds into something powerful. That's how habits are formed, confidence is built, and success becomes inevitable. And when you look at people who seem unshakable, who seem unstoppable, it's not that they're more motivated, it's that they're more disciplined. They've learned to do what's necessary, not just what's exciting. They've learned that emotions can't dictate effort. They've learned to show up whether they feel like it or not. So stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect spark. Just start. Show up messy, show up tired, show up unsure, because discipline doesn't need perfection. It just needs presence. That's how you build a life that shocks people, not with talk, not with promises, but with quiet, consistent action that proves you were serious all along. When you stop relying on motivation and start relying on discipline, you stop hoping for change and start becoming the change. The glow up everyone talks about, it's not the new clothes, the car, the job, or the attention. The real glow up starts long before anyone can see it. It begins in your mind. It begins the moment you decide you're done letting your emotions run your life. When you stop reacting to everything around you and start responding with intention, that's when everything changes. Because true transformation isn't about how you look, it's about how you think, how you move, how you carry yourself when no one's watching. There's a version of you that exists beyond frustration, beyond doubt, beyond needing to prove anything. That version of you is calm, grounded, certain, but you don't get there overnight. It starts with catching yourself in those small moments, the ones where you used to snap, overthink, or chase validation. Now, instead of reacting, you breathe, you pause, you remind yourself that not every situation deserves a reaction, that not every comment deserves your energy, that peace will always cost you your pride, and it's worth it every time. Because when your mindset shifts, your energy shifts, and when your energy shifts, your life starts reflecting it. You begin to notice that the same situations that once bothered you barely move you anymore. The same people who used to trigger you now confuse you because they don't understand why you're so calm. That's growth. That's the glow-up. No one talks about emotional control. That quiet strength that says, I don't need to prove my peace. When you start focusing on your internal world, everything external eventually catches up. You start walking differently, speaking differently. You carry yourself like someone who knows their worth, not because the world told you so, but because you finally told yourself. That kind of confidence doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply exists steady, quiet, undeniable. People will start to notice the change, but they won't be able to explain it. They'll just feel it when you walk in the room. And the truth is, when you heal your mindset, your glow-up becomes permanent. Because it's not built on trends or temporary highs, it's built on awareness, discipline, and peace. You stop chasing what's shiny and start choosing what's stable. You realize not everything you lose is a loss. Some things fall away because they no longer align with the person you're becoming. You outgrow drama, overthinking, and people who feed on negativity. You stop needing closure from others because you've already found it within yourself. The mental glow-up is quiet. It's you journaling instead of arguing, praying instead of panicking, choosing solitude over attention, setting boundaries without guilt. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's the kind of transformation that changes your posture, your voice, your entire energy. You go from trying to be seen to being at peace with being still. And that's what shocks people, not how you look, but how unbothered you've become. When you get your mind right, the world starts responding differently to you. Opportunities come easier. Relationships feel lighter. Your energy attracts what's meant for you because it's no longer blocked by chaos. You become magnetic not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've finally become aligned with yourself. That's the kind of glow you can't fake, the kind that lasts through every season of your life. So don't chase the glow-up that fades when the lights go out. Build the one that starts in your mind and shows in your peace. Because when your mindset evolves, your entire life follows, and that's the kind of transformation that truly shocks everyone.